Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and everyone immediately notices, not because they are loud or attention-seeking, but because there's something quietly magnetic about them? Something you can't quite name, but you feel it instantly. And then there are others. People who slip into spaces almost unnoticed, who speak less but say more, who seem to operate on a completely different frequency than everyone else around them. They don't fit into neat categories. They confuse people. And if you are watching this video, there's a good chance you might be one of them. Here's the thing. We are told that personality exists on a spectrum, extrovert to introvert, logical to emotional, spontaneous to planned. But what about the people who don't fit anywhere on that spectrum? The ones who contradict themselves constantly, who feel everything and nothing, who are simultaneously the most social and the most solitary people you'll ever meet. What if I told you that psychology has identified patterns, 8 specific signs, that point to something far rarer than any personality type? Not a disorder, not a flaw, but a configuration of traits so uncommon that most people will never truly understand you? So here's the question. What does it actually mean to have a rare personality? And more importantly, do you have one? Sign 1. You experience emotions in layers. You don't just feel sad. You feel sad about being sad. You feel guilty about being angry. You feel anxious about being happy, as if joy is a fragile thing you are not allowed to fully trust. Most people experience emotions as singular events. They are angry at someone, then they move on. But here's what's really happening with you. Your emotional experience is recursive. Psychologists call this meta-emotion, and research in affective neuroscience shows that only about 15 to 20% of people process feelings this way. You feel the primary emotion, yes. But then your brain immediately begins analyzing that emotion, judging it, predicting its consequences, and generating secondary and tertiary emotional responses. It's like watching a movie while simultaneously writing a review of the movie while also critiquing your review. And this is where it gets complex. Because this doesn't make you more emotional, it makes you more aware of your emotions. You are not drowning in feelings, you are swimming through them with a map you are drawing in real time. But here's the cost. You can never just feel something simple. A compliment doesn't just make you happy, it makes you suspicious of the compliment, grateful for the kindness, anxious about whether you deserve it, and sad that you can't just accept good things without this entire internal conference. The psychology behind this runs deeper than most people realize. Studies on emotional granularity show that people who experience emotions in layers tend to have higher activity in the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex, areas associated with self-awareness and emotional regulation. Your brain isn't broken. It's just extraordinarily active. And maybe that's the real gift here. Because while others are controlled by their emotions, you are in constant dialogue with yours. You understand yourself in ways most people never will. Sign 2. You are simultaneously deeply private and overly transparent. Here's the paradox. You'll tell a stranger your deepest fears at 2 a.m. but won't tell your best friend what you did last weekend. You share the profound and hide the mundane. You'll write your rawest thoughts on the internet but deflect when someone asks, "How are you really doing?" But here's what's fascinating. This isn't inconsistency. It's strategy. Attachment theory gives us a framework for understanding this. When psychologist Mary Ainsworth studied attachment styles, she found a small percentage of people who don't fit into secure, anxious, or avoidant categories. They exhibit what's called disorganized attachment. But there's another possibility. You've developed what some researchers call strategic vulnerability. You reveal the things that don't really matter, your existential thoughts, your abstract anxieties, because those are safe. They are universal enough that sharing them doesn't make you truly known. But the details of your daily life? Your routines, your relationships, your weekend plans? Those feel too intimate, too real, too exposing. Because here's the truth. Anyone can relate to your fear of death or your thoughts on meaning. But if they know what you ate for breakfast or who you texted yesterday, they know you. And that's terrifying. This pattern shows up in psychological research on self-disclosure. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people with rare personality configurations often have what researchers call an inverted disclosure pattern. They share abstract, high-level personal information more readily than concrete, low-level details. You are not being fake. You are being protective. You've learned that intimacy isn't about how much you share, it's about what you share. And you've become very, very selective. Sign 3. You need people and hate needing them. You crave connection with an intensity that sometimes frightens you. But the moment someone gets too close, you feel trapped, suffocated, like you're losing yourself in their presence. So you push them away. Not cruelly, but subtly. You become busy, distant. You stop texting back as quickly. You create space. And then, the moment they give you that space, you panic. You miss them. You want them back. If this sounds exhausting, that's because it is. And here's what's really happening. You are caught in what psychologists call an approach avoidance conflict. Your brain simultaneously signals that connection is rewarding and threatening. Research in social neuroscience shows that people with this pattern have heightened activity in both the reward centers, nucleus accumbens, and the threat detection centers, amygdala, when forming close relationships. Your brain is essentially arguing with itself about whether other people are safe. But the truth is even more nuanced. You don't hate needing people. You hate the loss of control that comes with needing them. Because needing someone means they have power over you. The power to leave. The power to hurt you. The power to see you completely and decide you are not enough. And this is where it gets interesting. Developmental psychology tells us that this conflict often forms in childhood, not necessarily from trauma, but from being deeply perceptive. You noticed early on that people are unpredictable. That love isn't guaranteed. That even the safest relationships have moments of rupture. So you built a system. Stay close enough to not be alone, but far enough to never be truly vulnerable. It's not healthy, exactly. But it's brilliant. And it's kept you safe. The question is, what would happen if you weren't so afraid of being unsafe? Sign 4. Your energy doesn't match your personality. You are the life of the party who goes home and doesn't speak for 3 days. You are the quiet one who suddenly becomes animated about specific topics. You are charismatic when you need to be and invisible when you choose to be. People find this confusing. They think you are inconsistent, moody, or fake. But here's the thing. You are none of those. You are adaptable. Personality psychology has long operated on the assumption that people have stable traits. You are either extroverted or introverted, open or closed, agreeable or disagreeable. But research over the past 2 decades has revealed something fascinating. A small percentage of people exhibit what's called high self-monitoring coupled with low social energy depletion. Let me translate that. You can read social situations with remarkable accuracy and adjust your behavior accordingly without it draining your energy the way it does for most people. You are not faking a personality, you are code-switching between different authentic versions of yourself. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Mirror neurons, the brain cells that help us empathize and imitate others, fire more intensely in people with rare personalities. You don't just observe social dynamics, you absorb them. You become what the situation needs. Not because you are a chameleon with no true self, but because your true self is genuinely multifaceted. The psychology behind this runs deeper than simple adaptability. Studies on personality flexibility show that people who can shift between social modes without feeling inauthentic tend to have higher cognitive complexity and greater emotional intelligence. Your brain can hold multiple truths simultaneously. You are both introverted and socially skilled, both sensitive and resilient, both serious and playful. The cost? People rarely see all of you. They see the version you present. And sometimes you wonder if anyone would like the full picture, the animated version and the silent one, the confident version and the uncertain one. But here's what's fascinating. The full picture isn't contradiction. It's completion. Sign 5. You are deeply uncomfortable with your own talents. You have abilities that others admire. Maybe you are creatively gifted, intellectually sharp, emotionally insightful, or unusually skilled at something specific. But when someone compliments you, you deflect. You minimize. You explain it away. Oh, anyone could do that. It's not that impressive. I just got lucky. But here's the truth. You are not being humble. You are being self-protective. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon extensively, particularly in people with what's called imposter syndrome, though that term doesn't quite capture what's happening with you. Because imposter syndrome suggests you falsely believe you are inadequate. But you don't believe you are inadequate. You believe that if people truly see your abilities, the expectations will become unbearable. Research published in the Journal of Personality Assessment found that people with rare personality types often experience what's called achievement anxiety, the fear that success will fundamentally change how others relate to you. If you are talented, people will expect things from you. They'll stop seeing you as human and start seeing you as a resource. A performer. Someone who exists to meet their needs. And this is where it gets complex. Because underneath the deflection is something deeper, the fear of losing love if you fail. If people think you are exceptionally talented and then you produce something mediocre, will they be disappointed? Will they leave? Will they realize you were never that special to begin with? So you hide. Not completely, you let your abilities show just enough to feel seen, but not so much that people's expectations become a cage. You perform brilliance casually, as if it's accidental, so that if you fail, you can say you weren't really trying. But the psychology behind this reveals something profound. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of being reduced to your abilities. Of being loved for what you do rather than who you are. And maybe that's the real question. What would it feel like to be extraordinary and fully loved? Sign 6. You understand people you shouldn't be able to understand. You meet someone for 5 minutes and understand their wounds. You watch a stranger's micro-expression and know exactly what they're not saying. You can sense the emotional undercurrents in any room, reading dynamics that others don't even notice exist. And it's not mystical. It's neurological. Neuroscience research on empathy has revealed that some people have what's called hyperactive theory of mind, the cognitive ability to understand others' mental states. Your brain is constantly running simulations. If I were them, with their history, in this situation, I would feel. And you're usually right. Studies using fMRI scans show that people with this trait have heightened activity in the temporal parietal junction and the medial prefrontal cortex, areas associated with perspective taking and social cognition. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine for human behavior. But here's what's really happening. You are not just empathetic, you are hyper-observant. You notice the slight change in someone's tone when a certain topic comes up. The way they position their body when they feel defensive. The micro-hesitation before they answer a question. You collect these tiny data points and construct psychological profiles without even trying. And this is where it gets lonely. Because you see people more clearly than they see themselves. You understand their motivations, their fears, their wounds. But when you try to explain what you see, they don't believe you. Or worse, they feel exposed. Violated. Like you've accessed something you weren't supposed to access. The psychology behind this reveals a profound truth. Deep perception is both a gift and a burden. You see the beauty in people, the fragile, wounded, trying their best beauty. But you also see the defenses, the self-deception, the places where they've lied to themselves for so long they believe the lies. So you learn to pretend you don't see. You learn to let people maintain their illusions. You learn that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone believe their own story, even when you can see every page they've torn out. But the cost is this: you are surrounded by people you understand, and no one truly understands you. Sign 7. You have an almost painful sense of clarity. You see the world without comforting illusions. You understand that most people are making it up as they go along, that social hierarchies are arbitrary, that confidence is often just unexamined ignorance, that the future is fundamentally uncertain. And this clarity doesn't make you cynical. It makes you tired. Because here's the thing. Most people need certain illusions to function. They need to believe their choices matter, that hard work guarantees success, that good things happen to good people, that their tribe is righteous and the other tribe is wrong. These illusions aren't stupid, they are protective. They make an overwhelming universe feel manageable. But you can't maintain those illusions. Your brain won't let you. Research in cognitive psychology has identified a phenomenon called depressive realism, the finding that people with certain personality types tend to assess situations more accurately than optimistic people. But this doesn't mean you're depressed. It means you're seeing clearly. And clarity, without the buffer of comforting stories, can be overwhelming. Existential psychology offers another framework. Some people are more aware of what philosophers call existential givens: death, meaninglessness, isolation, freedom. You feel these truths more acutely than others. Not because you are morbid, but because you are honest. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for critical thinking and reality testing, is highly active. You are constantly evaluating beliefs, questioning assumptions, testing narratives. You can't just accept things because everyone else does. You need them to make sense. And this is where it gets both beautiful and difficult. Because your clarity gives you a kind of freedom. You are not trapped by groupthink or social pressure or comforting lies. You can see possibilities others miss. You can make decisions based on reality rather than wishful thinking. But that same clarity can make connection harder. Because when you are talking to someone who still believes in simple narratives, good versus evil, us versus them, hard work equals success, you feel like you are from different planets. You are speaking different languages. And you can't explain what you see without sounding condescending or depressing. So you learn to translate. To speak in the language of comforting stories while knowing the truth underneath. To let others believe what they need to believe while you carry the weight of seeing more clearly. And maybe that's the real burden of clarity, not what you see, but how alone you feel in seeing it. Sign 8, you are terrified of your own potential. This is the big one. The one that keeps you up at night. You know, deep down, in a place you rarely admit even to yourself, that you are capable of extraordinary things. You feel it. The potential humming beneath your surface like electricity through wires. But instead of pursuing it, you sabotage. You procrastinate. You start projects and abandon them. You aim lower than you are capable of, not because you lack ambition, but because you are absolutely terrified of what would happen if you actually tried. And here's what's really happening. You are not afraid of failure. You are afraid of success. Let me explain. Psychological research on self-actualization, particularly the work of psychologist Abraham Maslow, reveals something counterintuitive. Many people fear reaching their full potential more than they fear mediocrity. Maslow called this the Jonah complex, named after the biblical figure who ran from his calling. Because here's the truth, if you actually pursue your potential and succeed, everything changes. Your relationships might shift. Your sense of identity might transform. People might treat you differently. You might lose the comfortable excuses you've used to explain why your life isn't what you want it to be. And if you pursue your potential and fail, then you'll have to confront the possibility that you weren't as special as you believed. That the potential you felt was just wishful thinking. That you're ordinary after all. So you stay in the middle. Safe. Capable enough to feel competent, but not so successful that you have to face what you are truly capable of. But here's what the psychology tells us. This pattern shows up in people with what researchers call high potential coupled with low self-compassion. You can see your abilities, but you can't forgive yourself for not living up to them. You set impossible standards, then punish yourself for not meeting them, then avoid trying altogether to escape the punishment. The research in positive psychology offers a reframe. Potential isn't something you either fulfill or waste. It's something you negotiate with throughout your entire life. Some years you'll chase it. Some years you'll rest. Some years you'll redirect it. And all of those choices are valid. Because here's what's fascinating. The terror you feel about your potential? That's not weakness. That's awareness. You understand the magnitude of what you could become, and it's overwhelming. Most people never feel that terror because they never see their potential clearly enough to be frightened by it. Your fear isn't evidence that you are not meant for extraordinary things. It's evidence that you are. So let's circle back to where we started. That strange feeling of not quite fitting anywhere. Of being too much and not enough simultaneously. Of understanding things you shouldn't understand and feeling things too deeply to explain. Here's what I need you to know. You are not broken. You are not confused. You are not too complicated or too sensitive or too anything. You are rare. And rarity, by definition, means most people won't understand you. They'll misread your silence as aloofness. Your depth as intensity. Your adaptability as inconsistency. Your perception as judgment. Your potential as threat. But the psychology behind everything we've talked about today points to something profound. These aren't 8 separate signs. They are 8 expressions of the same underlying truth. You experience life at a different frequency than most people. Not better. Not worse. Just different. The layers of emotion you feel? That's your brain refusing to oversimplify the human experience. The paradox of privacy and transparency? That's you protecting something precious while still yearning to be known. The push and pull with people? That's you trying to balance the fundamental human need for connection with the equally fundamental need for autonomy. The shifting energy? That's you being genuinely multifaceted in a world that demands consistent performance. The discomfort with talent? That's you valuing being loved over being admired. The deep understanding of others? That's you seeing the full humanity in people who can't yet see it in themselves. The painful clarity? That's you refusing comforting lies in favor of uncomfortable truth. And the terror of potential? That's you understanding the weight of becoming who you are capable of being. None of this makes your life easier. I won't pretend it does. Being rare often means being lonely. It means watching others connect effortlessly while you are still translating yourself into a language they might understand. It means having gifts that feel like curses and insights that isolate you. But here's the reframe. Maybe the point isn't to become less rare. Maybe it's to find a few people who speak your frequency. The ones who don't need you to translate. The ones who see your contradictions as completeness rather than confusion. Maybe it's to stop apologizing for the intensity of your inner world and start treating it as the profound gift it is. Maybe it's to recognize that the very things that make you feel alien are the things that make you capable of extraordinary understanding, extraordinary art, extraordinary love. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You never will be. But you need to be understood by yourself. And that starts with recognizing that rare doesn't mean wrong. It just means rare. So here's my final thought. If you recognized yourself in these 8 signs, if you felt that uncomfortable ache of being deeply seen, then you are part of a small percentage of people who experience the world with unusual depth and complexity. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly who the world needs you to be.